8 children: Taya, Diane, Bobby, Robbie, Dwayne, Craig, Pamela, myself, and Lawrence. And so what I realized today is I started having those addictive behaviors as a child. I was the 7 out of 8. And I experienced a lot of isolation, insecurities. I was very isolated a lot within a home and from friends and family. I just wasn't a secure young lady. And so as I grew older, my behaviors continued to grow. Met up with some old friends, of course, went on into life, thinking that I was missing out on some things. I had a very sheltered life. No blame to my parents. They were wonderful. My family, I had a strong foundation, morals, values, structure, and discipline. So my choices were my choices. And so as I continued to grow up, my behaviors became unhealthy. And at the age of 26, I was introduced to a drug, cocaine. And so because those addictive behaviors were already there, that was the last thing that in addiction, came about. And so as I continue to progress in my addiction, I decreased, my addiction increased. And as we all know, addiction is chronic and progressive. And so as I continue, my criminal behaviors also increased. As we know that sometimes that can happen. And so I'm getting older and I'm still don't have any aspirations, don't have any goals. I'm just stuck in my addiction at this point, right? It's progressive at this moment. I had children along the way. So again, I decreased as a mother, as a daughter, as a friend, and my addiction increased continually. So at this point, I come home. I am a bartender at this time. And I start to cry out. And I said, Lord, please, I need some help. I don't know what to do. And at this time, it becomes ritualistic. The drug no longer works. I'm just caught up in a ritual. And so I continue to pray and tears are rolling down my eyes. I can remember it like yesterday. And so a few months later, my criminal behaviors caught up with me, of course. I go in front of a wonderful judge, Burke. And she was the head of the ADAPT program. And so she thought that my bartending was the issue, which it was, but it wasn't the core issue, right? It fueled my addiction, of course. But she thought that would work for me if I just quit the job. And of course I couldn't, because why would I give up my finances, right? I'm being supplied. And so this is how I take care of things. And so I did not, and I failed at probation. She ordered me probation. I failed at it, of course. And so I go back in front of her, and Christine Patel talks to the lawyer, and they suggest I go into the DAP program. This is my prayer being answered. And at this point, I'm like, yes. And my convictions are being in lieu of if I complete the program. So I go into ADAPT. They gave me some time to get my affairs in order, and I did that. And so I go on, I show up, and I go to the ADAPT program. And at this point, I live by analogies. They make sense to me some way. And so my thought was to learn my opponent. There is a Chinese strategist and philosopher credited for writing The Art of War. And he said, when you know your enemy and when you know yourself, the fear of the results of when you know yourself and you know your enemy, you do not fear the results of 100 battles. I get that. So I went into the DAP program, and what it taught me, everything about addiction, exactly what I wanted to know, how it moved, why it moved, when, where, how. And I wanted to know that. I needed to know about this disease that was trying to take me out, that depleted me of everything that I was raised with, that was trying to take my life. And so at the time, ADAPT also taught me about myself, how to defeat, how to manage it, right? We know there's no cure, but we do manage it, right? And so I continued on into the program, and I had surrendered, of course, and I put both feet in, and I ended up graduating from the program. I went on to IOP after the ADAPT program. That's the process. You graduate from the program. And when I went into ADAPT, I had no purpose whatsoever. What is my purpose? What was my purpose? I had none. My other brothers and sisters were at this time graduated, successful, and I still had no purpose going into the program. And at that moment, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to come back and help people just like me. I knew instantly, right? That was my purpose. And so I asked, what do I have to do to get back to Talbert House? He said, well, you have to graduate and you have to wait 5 years. Like, okay. So I graduated. I went on about my life. I came home to my apartment, to my children. And it's not about the years or anything about that. It's about the mileage. So I did everything that was suggested of me, to me. I asked for help along the way. And because of the program, because a young lady said earlier that it does take a village. And because of the village, I will be celebrating 11 years on October 19th, 2021. And today I stand here grateful every day. I follow most of the basic principles of life, right? As much as I can. And so I'm so grateful, my foundation. And so I'm here again at the Talbert House. So I did make it back, of course. I did make it to my goal and my purpose. And my passion today is to be a vessel of hope and a beacon of light to those who continue to struggle. So I don't continue to fight for me. I fight for my peers who are still struggling. I fight for those who didn't make it. I fight for those who didn't have the support or did not see a way out, right? We lose them every day. Every day we lose someone to this addiction and to this disease. And so today, every day I wake up, I thank God for another day and another opportunity to be a vessel of hope and a beacon of light. So if you're ever at home and you wonder if what we are doing, what you are doing, what you're contributing, what you are contributing to society, and if it helps, yes, yes, and yes. I stand here today as one of those. We do recover. Thank you very much.